Nintendo made you recognize these 4 colors thanks to the Console of Wonders, the platform that received games that made history and brought the strangest, most surreal, and fun experiences to the player. And now, it's time to discover all the hidden and not so hidden Super Nintendo gems. So hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the best games from each Nintendo console. Here we'll show you the 20 best Super Nintendo games. Super Mario grew up with the most ambitious game to date in Super Mario World, a gigantic platform adventure with over 70 levels and a gameplay so brilliant that it remains the most used in Super Mario level creation games. It not only perfected everything seen in Super Mario Bros. 3, but also included Yoshi as Mario's companion, dozens of new enemies, and game mechanics that were used as a basis for Mario games for decades, all in a Super Nintendo cartridge. Meanwhile, the classic remastered adventures are also available on the console with Super Mario All-Stars. You probably know Ness from Super Smash Bros., but on Super Nintendo, he had one of the most amazing RPG adventures in history. In Earthbound, we took on the role of Ness, a boy with psychic powers who, along with his friends, must investigate the fall of a meteorite and the subsequent transformation of animals and people into evil beings. We could consider it the precursor to Undertale, and its creator knew how great this Super Nintendo game was. Today, in Nintendo's strange experiments, we have Yoshi's Safari. This game used a massive console accessory called the Super Scope, which was essentially a bazooka with which we could shoot by aiming at the screen, and Yoshi's Safari almost exclusively used it. This game was a first-person adventure riding on Yoshi's back, where we had to shoot all the enemies that appeared on the screen, with lots of secrets and requiring very good aim. An experience truly as refreshing as it is strange and unique. Mickey Mouse starred in a short but intense adventure in the Magical Quest for Super Nintendo. It's a basic platformer game where Mickey could change his outfits and his powers. There was a magician Mickey, a firefighter Mickey, and a climber Mickey with curious ways of using his tools. As we said, short but intense. Time is given 1, 2, and many chances to Super Mario RPG. Initially, this exclusive Super Mario title, co-developed by Square, did not reach Europe, being playable through virtual consoles and online systems on current platforms. Super Mario RPG was the beginning of sagas like Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi, with unique characters and a simple but entertaining story that let us see Super Mario's world in a different way. Nintendo thought it was a good idea to mix Yoshi with a puzzle game, and the result was Tetris Attack. This Western version of Panel de Pon replaced the main characters with Yoshis, making it more friendly for Nintendo players. At its core, it's a puzzle where you have to mix blocks to remove them from the screen. Having Yoshi might be a plus, but Bust-A-Move was similar and more dynamic, so don't lose sight of it either. For us, Yoshi's Island is one of the best Super Nintendo games and even one of the best in history. Nintendo came up with a game that stands the test of time, with an innovative gameplay system that distances itself from traditional Super Mario's to directly control Yoshi through more than 45 levels. It's not just about reaching the end of the stage and fighting enemies. Yoshi's Island masterfully sets a precedent in exploration and object collection platformers. If you have a way to play it and haven't done it yet, you're late. There are plenty of racing games on Super Nintendo, but few as frenetic as F-Zero. This game, made by Nintendo, takes you to race in epic futuristic races at dizzying speeds. It differs from others like Mario Kart in its gameplay, focused on speed and not so much on interacting with opponents. But if you want to play it safe, Super Mario Kart is the Super Nintendo car game. It was the first Mario Kart game in history, and despite not being in 3 dimensions and lacking some mechanics that now seem essential, it remains a great and crazy retro racing game. Kirby had his own adventure on Super Nintendo with Kirby Superstar. It wasn't the best of his life, but it served to lay the foundations for what Kirby should be after the experiments on Game Boy. Speaking of experiments, Kirby's Dream Course simulated a 3-dimensional environment where we had to guide Kirby turned into a little ball, very original for its time. Super Nintendo was the console for platform games, and for many, Donkey Kong Country 2 was the very best of them. The console also had the first and third installments, but the second installment was so good, well-rounded, and perfect that it's the one we recommend the most. With a sinister setting, Diddy and Dixie have to save Donkey Kong from King K. Rool by working together through brilliant platform levels. When you think of a Wario game for Super Nintendo, something like Wario World might come to mind. Nintendo wanted to stand out with a Tetris-style Wario game where you had to move inside the puzzle and place the pieces. It was very original and nothing like it has been done since then, so it is worth checking out. Among Nintendo's retro games, Punch-Out has the honor of being the most referenced in movies and games, and Super Nintendo had its best installment with Super Punch-Out, an arcade combat game where Little Mac had to become the boxing champion. It had simple but addictive gameplay, as well as a unique theme in Nintendo. The origin of Star Fox took place on Super Nintendo with a rail space shooter where you had to shoot enemies and dodge obstacles to advance. There were different ways to reach the end with unlockable routes, and although it wasn't very long, it was very entertaining. If Yoshi's Safari seemed crazy to you, Nintendo went further with Mario Paint and the Super Nintendo mouse. Mario Paint used this accessory like a computer, and the main goal was to enjoy drawing. There were a few tools with some interesting and innovative mini-games, and its interface gave life to the Super Mario Maker saga. Chrono Trigger was an RPG ahead of its time, from the same creators of Final Fantasy. With art by Akira Toriyama, a group of heroes is accidentally transported through time and discovers that the world is going to be destroyed. Their mission will be to save it and prevent the disaster by traveling through time. Although its classic turn-based JRPG gameplay, its story was original enough to stand out from the rest of the competitors. Also, take a look at Final Fantasy VI and Secret of Mana if you're fans of RPGs on Super Nintendo. Fighting games on Super Nintendo weren't super abundant, but some, like Street Fighter II, were brilliant. It had an entertaining campaign, but the best part was being able to fight against friends in local mode, taking full advantage of the balanced characters and addictive combat system. And in case you want something more violent, there was also Mortal Kombat 2, which was not far behind in terms of quality. A Link to the Past is one of the most beloved adventures of The Legend of Zelda. It's one of the most complete classic two-dimensional Zeldas and offers a great story in which Link will have to traverse two worlds to rescue the princess. So if you like classic Zelda, this game is a must-have. Super Metroid truly lives up to its name. It's the purest and most well-rounded two-dimensional Metroid game of all time, with an intricate level design that'll make you intelligently navigate the map, defeating enemies and discovering secrets in an action game like few others. If you want an alternative, Mega Man X was similar in some way, and although it wasn't as good as Super Metroid, it'll surely leave a good taste in your mouth too. Nintendo developing SimCity was one of the strangest things we've ever seen. Will Wright's Saga, where you take control of a city to make it prosper, had a great installment on Super Nintendo. It's not for everyone, but if it hooks you, you might find it hard to put down. Is there any other Super Nintendo games you missed on this list? Let us know in the comments down below, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the best games from the rest of the Nintendo consoles. Here you can see some. See you next time!